Sagittarius spiritual awakening. The only soul who can carry your energy without breaking. Sagittarius, have you ever felt like your spirit was made of wildfire and open sky? Too bright to be contained and too honest to pretend? Like your soul was born aiming its arrow toward something higher while the world kept asking you to stand still, to lower your gaze, to make yourself smaller so others could feel more comfortable around you. If you are here listening to these words in this exact moment, it is not an accident. It is a quiet appointment your soul made with the universe long before your mind understood why you were searching. What you are about to hear is not just astrology, not just soothing language. It is a remembering of who you are beneath the exhaustion, beneath the disappointment, beneath all the times you were told you were too much or too intense for this world. You carry a sacred fire inside you, a fire of truth, faith, and restless hope, and not every soul is ready to stand that close to something so real. As you listen, let this be a soft place for your heart to land, a private sanctuary where you no longer have to apologize for your vision, your passion, or your need for meaning. And if these words touch something true inside you, gently support this space, like, share, or subscribe, so that this circle of wandering, wise-hearted Sagittarians can keep finding their way back home to themselves together. Gate 1: The Sacred Fire Within. Sagittarius, your soul is not meant to be quiet. You were born beneath a constellation of seekers, teachers, wanderers, spirits who came to remind humanity that truth is not a place to arrive but a path to walk. Deep inside you burns a fire that has no interest in comfort. It longs for purpose, for expansion, for the kind of freedom that only honesty can bring. Since childhood, you may have felt the pull of horizons invisible to others. While most sought belonging, you sought understanding. While others tried to build fences around certainty, you built bridges toward possibility. Yet somewhere along your journey, life may have told you that this fire was too much, that your blunt honesty was harsh, your curiosity reckless, your need for freedom a flaw. But the truth is, Sagittarius, your restlessness was never rebellion. It was remembrance. You are the living embodiment of the sacred flame that transforms ignorance into insight. Your calling is not to fit into systems but to question them, not to protect illusions but to reveal what lies beyond them. Think of every moment you've been misunderstood. Every time someone mistook your independence for disinterest, your laughter for carelessness, your detachment for lack of feeling. They could not see that your freedom is not avoidance but devotion. Devotion to truth, to authenticity, to a life that feels alive. You do not fear the unknown because at your core, you remember that the unknown is home. You were born to run toward horizons, not hide from them. But here lies your great paradox. The same flame that illuminates your path can also burn you when unguarded. You give, you share. You believe with such sincerity that disappointment often hits you like a storm. You trust too soon because your own heart is pure, assuming that others also speak with the same honesty that lives in you. And when they don't, when their intentions bend under pressure or their truths fracture under fear, you feel betrayed not just by them, but by the world itself. Your fire dims for a while, and you begin to wonder if your openness is naive. But Sagittarius, your openness is your divinity. It is the evidence that your soul has not grown cynical despite the world's attempts to make it so. There's an old saying that fits you perfectly. Those who carry light will always be tested by shadow. And your tests have often come through disillusionment. You've seen how people preach truth but fear it, how they claim to seek freedom yet cling to control. You've watched how love can sometimes disguise itself as possession, and how faith can crumble when challenged by reality. These are not punishments, they are initiations. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every journey that ended too soon has been part of your apprenticeship in wisdom. You are not just a fire sign. You are a sacred flame being refined. Consider the times you stood alone, misunderstood, yet unable to silence your truth. Remember when you spoke up, even when your voice trembled. That was not rebellion. That was alignment. Sagittarius, your spirit is wired for honesty, not diplomacy. For vision, not validation. The universe did not craft you to be agreeable. It crafted you to be awake. And yes, that awakening often comes with the pain of seeing too much. You can spot pretense in smiles, half-truths in kind words, and fear behind control. Your intuition is like an arrow that never misses its mark, pierces illusion. That is why some people distance themselves when you get too close. It's not that you are too much. It's that your presence demands authenticity, and not everyone is ready to meet themselves that way. But do not harden your heart in response. Your gift is not to judge but to illuminate. You are the philosopher of the zodiac, but also its healer. When you speak truth, do it not to destroy but to awaken. There is a story I once heard of a Sagittarius woman named Mira, who after decades in a job she hated, sold everything and moved across the world to teach children in a small mountain village. When asked why she left her stability, she said, "Because I finally understood that safety is not the same as peace. That is your spirit in human form. One that knows faith is not found in comfort but in courage." And yet, the deeper initiation for Sagittarius is learning that not every journey requires motion. Your soul's evolution depends not only on the fires you ignite, but also on the stillness you allow. The universe sometimes dims your path not to punish you, but to teach you that light can also be found in quiet. When your arrow seems to lose direction, it is not failure. It is a sacred pause. The archer must sometimes lower the bow to realign the aim. There are seasons when your lesson is not in the chase but in the surrender, in trusting that your next horizon will reveal itself when you have absorbed the wisdom of the last. So when you feel restless, ask yourself, is my soul seeking expansion or escape? True expansion never runs, it listens, learns, integrates. You are not meant to burn endlessly. You are meant to radiate consciously. And that means discerning where your energy flows, which people or dreams deserve your flame, and which merely drain it. You are learning that your optimism is a sacred resource, not to be spent on those who fear their own growth. The world needs your fire, Sagittarius, but it also needs your wisdom. The next chapter of your awakening is not about proving your strength. It's about embodying your grace. You are no longer the wanderer chasing answers. You are becoming the guide who carries them. And the first truth to remember is this: you are not here to convince anyone of your worth. The right souls will feel your fire and not flinch. They will not try to contain you. They will build space beside you where both of you can expand. Until then, keep your flame sacred. The light you carry was never meant to warm those who fear the dawn. It was meant to lead those ready to walk through it. Gate to the lessons of love and freedom. Sagittarius, love has always been both your greatest teacher and your most complicated classroom. You are a sign ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, meaning, and divine wisdom. And so every connection you make carries a philosophical purpose. You don't love lightly. You love as if you're writing scripture with every breath. To you, relationships are not simply about affection. They are sacred pilgrimages toward truth. You fall in love not just with people, but with possibilities, with the poetry of what could be. And yet, this very idealism has been the source of your deepest heartbreaks. For how can a soul born for infinity ever feel at peace in something temporary? You've always believed that love should set you free, not chain you down. But the world often teaches the opposite, that love is proven through sacrifice, control, or endurance. And so many times you've tried to balance two opposing desires, the need to belong and the need to breathe. You've loved people who wanted to keep you safe, but in doing so built walls around your wings. You stayed longer than you should have because you mistook comfort for connection. But your heart, Sagittarius, is not meant to live in captivity. When love becomes a cage, your soul begins to wither. When it becomes a horizon, you thrive. To understand love in its truest form, you must first understand yourself. You are a creature of vision, a philosopher disguised as a dreamer. You see beyond appearances, sensing the potential in people long before they see it themselves. And because of this, you sometimes fall in love with their possibilities rather than their reality. You believe your faith can awaken them, that your optimism can inspire them to evolve. But here lies one of your hardest lessons. You cannot rescue someone from their own unwillingness. You can only walk beside them while they choose to rescue themselves. In your past, perhaps you have poured your heart into people who were not ready to meet you in the realm of truth. You have given your fire to those who mistook it for warmth, unaware that they were standing in the presence of something divine. They wanted your light but not the discipline it takes to hold it. They wanted adventure without accountability, passion without depth. And you, ever hopeful, believed that love could teach them how to fly. But love is not a classroom for the unready. It is a sacred temple for the aware. Sagittarius, you are learning that true love is not about merging until you lose yourself. It's about growing together without shrinking. The right soul for you will never fear your independence. They will celebrate it because they, too, have learned that freedom is not distance, it is trust. When love is rooted in freedom, it doesn't need constant reassurance. It breathes. It allows. Thrives in honesty. But when it's rooted in fear, it suffocates both hearts. And you of all signs cannot thrive where your truth cannot speak. I once met a Sagittarian man named Elias who loved a woman deeply. Yet their love collapsed under the weight of misunderstanding. She wanted to own my heart, he told me. But my heart was never an object, it was a journey. He didn't mean that he couldn't be loyal. He meant that his loyalty was expressed through presence, not possession. Sagittarius, you teach others that love without freedom is not devotion. It's dependency. You remind the world that true commitment is not about standing still together, but walking in the same direction with shared faith. But the same fire that demands freedom can also make you restless. Sometimes when love feels too predictable, your spirit begins to wander. Not always toward another person but toward the next question, the next mystery. This is not infidelity. It's spiritual hunger. Yet, the challenge for you is to distinguish between curiosity and avoidance. Do you seek new horizons because your soul is growing? Or because you're afraid to be truly seen? Freedom without intimacy is emptiness dressed as adventure. The universe is now asking you to integrate both, to let love become not a limitation, but a landscape where your spirit can still roam, but not alone. For love to work for you, Sagittarius, it must be rooted in truth. You crave partners who speak the language of honesty fluently, who dare to question life with you rather than hide behind polite illusions. You don't want predictable affection. You want connection that expands your consciousness. You fall in love with those who make you think, who make you laugh at the absurdity of existence, who challenge you to grow without trying to control your direction. You are drawn to minds that are vast, hearts that are brave, and spirits that are unafraid of depth. And yet, love will continue to test you until you learn that freedom and intimacy are not enemies, they are twins born of trust. To love deeply, you must surrender the illusion that freedom means detachment. True freedom is not running. It's choosing to stay because your soul recognizes safety in someone's energy, not because of obligation, but because of alignment. When you meet that kind of soul, you will not feel trapped. You will feel seen. You will not feel the need to explain your intensity or tone down your fire. They will not fear your truth, they will rise with it. The universe has a way of sending you mirrors, Sagittarius. Every person you've loved was a reflection of your evolving understanding of freedom. The ones who tried to cage you taught you boundaries. The ones who disappeared taught you discernment. The ones who stayed without trying to own you taught you grace. None of it was wasted. Each connection was a sacred initiation in learning how to love without losing yourself. The next time love arrives, it will not feel like a chase. It will feel like exhale. There will be no tests, no games, no shrinking. You will not need to earn peace. It will simply exist between you, like sunlight through open windows. You will both understand that love is not meant to confine. It is meant to elevate. And when you finally experience that kind of love, you will realize why the others could not last. They were never meant to carry the flame. They were meant to help you learn how to tend it. Every ending was preparation. Every loss was redirection. You are not cursed in love, Sagittarius. You are being refined for something higher. The one who can carry your energy without breaking will not demand that you change your essence. They will see that your wildness is holy, your honesty sacred, and your freedom divine. Gate 3: The path of truth and expansion. Sagittarius, truth is not just your compass. It is your very heartbeat. You were not born to walk through life half awake, repeating what others believe. You came to question, to explore, to understand. For you, truth is not a collection of facts. It is a living experience that breathes through every risk you take and every leap of faith your spirit dares to make. Your journey has always been one of expansion, not only outward but inward. You travel not just across lands and opportunities, but through layers of consciousness. And yet, with such a gift comes a deep responsibility to ensure that your search for truth does not become an escape from stillness. You are ruled by Jupiter, the cosmic teacher, and so you carry an instinctive need to find meaning in everything: pain, loss, joy, and uncertainty alike. When others ask, "Why me?" you ask, "What is this teaching me?" That's your power. Transformation through understanding. But because you seek meaning so relentlessly, You sometimes chase experiences to fill the silence. The quiet moments between your adventures can feel unbearable because they force you to face your own reflection. The one that cannot be escaped. The one that whispers. The truth you seek outside is already within. There will come a time in every Sagittarian's life when the outer journey loses its thrill. The new city, the new project, the new person, all of it begins to feel like the same lesson dressed in different faces. That is when the universe gently turns your arrow inward. It asks, what are you still running from? What pain do you avoid under the disguise of optimism? What truth about yourself have you yet to embrace? This is your sacred turning point. The moment when your endless horizon becomes an inner pilgrimage. True expansion, Sagittarius, is not measured by miles but by consciousness. You can cross oceans and still feel confined if your heart remains closed. You can stay in one place and reach galaxies if your mind is open. The mature Sagittarius understands that wisdom is not about collecting truths. It's about embodying them. You are being asked now to become not just a seeker, but a vessel of what you have learned. Your stories, your scars, your laughter. They are all scriptures waiting to be shared. There was once a Sagittarian teacher named Leora who spent years traveling from one sacred site to another, chasing visions and revelations. But one day she sat alone by a river and realized, I have been everywhere except inside myself. In that silence she began her true journey, the one that required no ticket, no map, no audience. It required honesty, and when she found peace there, her words began to heal others. That is your destiny too, Sagittarius, to turn experience into wisdom, to speak not from theory but from lived truth. Your voice carries the medicine of authenticity. When you speak your truth, you awaken others to theirs. But that truth must first be lived, not performed. The universe tests your integrity through paradox. It asks, will you still speak of freedom when faced with responsibility? Will you still honor honesty when it costs you comfort? Will you still choose faith when logic fails? These moments shape your spiritual authority. And every time you answer yes, your energy expands, your frequency rises, and your soul becomes a beacon for others who are lost in illusion. You are the philosopher, but you are also the prophet. The world needs your insight, but it also needs your humility. Because sometimes, your fire for truth can become a weapon when not tempered by compassion. You must remember that not everyone is ready to see what you see. Some souls are still building the courage to face their own reflection. Your role is not to expose them, but to guide them gently toward awakening. Your wisdom must be both sword and balm, sharp enough to cut through deceit, but tender enough to heal what the truth reveals. You will notice that as you expand in consciousness, your relationships, your ambitions, and your values begin to shift. The people who once resonated with your old version may fall away. This is not rejection, it is calibration. The universe rearranges your surroundings to match your new vibration. And though this shedding can feel lonely, it is sacred. You cannot carry everyone into your next chapter, Sagittarius. The teacher must sometimes walk alone before new students appear. The seeker must sometimes rest before the next path unfolds. In this phase of awakening, you may also notice a subtle change in your dreams. They are no longer just about success or adventure, they are about purpose. The Sagittarian heart matures when it realizes that truth without service is incomplete. You are not meant to gather wisdom for yourself alone. Your expansion is meant to uplift, to enlighten, to ignite the courage of others. You are the storyteller, the philosopher, the bridge between heaven and earth. When you share what you've learned, you become the embodiment of cosmic generosity, the Jupiter gift of giving light freely because you trust that the universe will refill your flame. But do not be fooled. This path is not without challenge. The more you awaken, the less you can tolerate falsehood. You will see through manipulation, through empty words, through surface-level living. And while that clarity feels empowering, it can also make you feel isolated in a world that celebrates masks. In those moments, remember, your truth is not a weapon to prove others wrong. It is a mirror to remind them that they too can live free. Speak with conviction but anchor it in compassion. That is how a Sagittarian becomes not just wise but luminous. In time, your expansion will no longer feel like searching, it will feel like remembering. You will realize that truth is not something to find, but something to align with. It lives in the quiet moments when your heart and your actions are in harmony. When you can stand in front of yourself without shame, without pretending, and say, I am learning, I am growing, and that is enough. That is enlightenment, not perfection but presence. So Sagittarius, keep walking your path of truth, but remember to pause and look within. The arrow you fire into the horizon eventually returns as understanding. The journey you began outside ends inside your soul. And there you will find the one thing you've been seeking all along. Not another destination, not another answer, but peace. The kind of peace that doesn't need to explain itself, because it has already become one with truth. Gate for the return of faith and divine alignment. Sagittarius, every seeker eventually reaches a point where questions fade, and only faith remains. You, more than any other sign, understand that life is not a straight line, it is a spiral. You move through cycles of expansion, contraction, loss, and revelation, each time returning wiser, lighter, more aware of what truly matters. This is not regression. It is refinement. You are not who you were a decade ago or even a year ago because the fire within you has been purified by experience. What you are feeling now, the quiet restlessness, the ache to trust again, the longing for alignment, is the soul's way of saying, it is time to return home to faith. But faith for you, Sagittarius, is not blind belief. It is not the kind handed down by tradition or enforced by fear. Your faith is a living dialogue with the divine, a partnership built through trial, intuition, and grace. You have walked through darkness and dared to ask why. You have stood at the edge of loss and chosen to believe anyway. That is sacred courage, the kind the universe recognizes instantly. You do not believe because it is easy. You believe because your soul has witnessed what cannot be seen. Throughout your life, you have experienced what mystics call the falling away. Jobs, relationships, dreams, many have dissolved, not because you failed, but because they no longer matched your vibration. The divine does not remove things to punish you, Sagittarius. It removes them to realign you. Every ending was a cosmic correction, gently guiding your arrow back toward purpose. Even heartbreak had meaning. It peeled away illusion so that your faith could become personal, intimate, and unshakable. Think of the moments when everything seemed to fall apart, yet somehow you found yourself protected. A stranger's kindness, a sudden opportunity, an inner whisper saying, keep going. These were not coincidences. They were reminders that grace walks beside you, even when you cannot see it. You are Jupiter's child, after all, born under the sign of divine timing. You were never meant to control outcomes. You were meant to trust the flow of expansion. The universe doesn't ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be present, to keep your heart open enough to be guided. And here lies the essence of divine alignment. Alignment does not mean ease. It means authenticity. It means choosing what feels true, even when it costs you the comfort of familiarity. It means saying no to what drains your spirit and yes to what ignites it, even if no one else understands. There is a quiet power in the Sagittarian soul that cannot be subdued. It always rises, always finds light, always returns to faith. You are not naive for believing in miracles. You are brave for doing so in a world that has forgotten how. There is a story about an archer who once lost his bow in a storm. For months he searched for it, believing he could not fulfill his purpose without it. But one day he realized that his aim had never depended on the bow. It had depended on his focus. Sagittarius, your faith is that focus. Even when tools, plans, or people fall away, your connection to truth remains. The bow is external. The aim is eternal. You are entering a season now where the universe will begin to mirror your internal evolution. The opportunities, people, and paths coming toward you will feel different, not chaotic but clear. You'll recognize them instantly, not through logic but through resonance. That's divine alignment at work. The right doors open when you stop forcing and start flowing. The right people arrive when you stop performing and start vibrating as your authentic self. What once required effort will now require only faith. And yet, alignment does not mean passivity. You are still the archer, you must still take the shot. The difference is that now you do so with trust rather than tension. When you aim your arrow with faith, you no longer fear missing the mark, because you understand that even a missed shot teaches precision. Your life is not a series of mistakes. It's a symphony of divine timing. Every detour was a classroom. Every loss was a recalibration. Every delay was a sacred pause preparing you for something greater. As you step into this new vibration, the energy around you will begin to shift. You may feel drawn to simpler truths, quieter spaces, deeper conversations. Material success will no longer satisfy you unless it carries meaning. The applause of the crowd will mean less than the peace of your heart. This is not cynicism, it's evolution. The Sagittarian spirit matures when it learns that abundance without purpose is emptiness disguised as glory. You are now being called to live with intention, to align your actions, words, and desires with your soul's highest frequency. And when you do, Sagittarius, you become unstoppable. Not in the loud, forceful way the world defines power, but in the magnetic way truth defines it. People will feel your presence and not know why. They feel calmer, more hopeful, more alive. It is because alignment radiates silently. You will become proof that faith is not superstition. It is a science of the soul, a resonance that bends reality around integrity. You will no longer chase destiny. Destiny will recognize your vibration and find you. Remember this, the divine never forgets the heart that keeps believing. When you speak your dreams aloud with sincerity, the universe rearranges itself to meet you halfway. When you release what no longer serves you, new blessings rush in to fill the space. You are co-creating with existence itself. Each thought a seed, each act of trust a prayer in motion. Faith is not waiting for signs, it is becoming one. So breathe, Sagittarius. You've wandered far, fallen hard, and risen higher. You've questioned everything and lost nothing of your essence. The fire within you has changed color. It no longer burns for validation, but for truth. You are entering the phase of your life where miracles will no longer surprise you. They will feel natural because you have finally aligned your energy with your divine rhythm. This is your return to faith, not the faith of innocence but of wisdom, the kind that stands tall even after storms, smiling not because life is perfect, but because your spirit is unbroken. You've learned that surrender is not weakness, it's mastery. You've learned that alignment is not luck, it's choice. And you've remembered that the universe was never testing you. It was teaching you to trust your own light. When you walk in faith, Sagittarius, you do not need to chase destiny. You become it. Conclusion: the homecoming of the spirit. Sagittarius, take a deep breath. Feel the weight leaving your shoulders and the warmth returning to your chest. You have journeyed through fire and silence, through loss and revelation, and yet, here you stand, wiser, softer, and infinitely more alive. You are no longer chasing the horizon. You have become it. The restless wanderer has turned into the conscious pilgrim, one who understands that every detour was a map drawn by the divine. The lessons that once broke you have become the soil from which your wisdom blooms. You now know that freedom without purpose is emptiness, and love without truth is illusion. The old you sought adventure to feel alive. The new you breathes adventure into every moment by simply being awake. You have learned that faith is not about having all the answers. It is about walking with grace even when the path is unseen. You have learned that your worth is not earned by what you do, but revealed by who you are when everything falls away. This is your homecoming, the return of your spirit to itself. The fire within you burns differently now. Steadier, clearer, sacred. You no longer seek to prove your light. You radiate it naturally. You no longer fear your depth. You honor it. You no longer question your timing. You trust it. You are, and have always been, in conversation with the universe, and finally you can hear it clearly. So let this be your declaration. I walk in truth. I trust in timing. I honor my fire. I am ready for alignment. Say it aloud. Feel it in your bones. For the universe is listening, always listening, ready to meet you where faith and destiny intertwine. And if these words have spoken to your spirit, remember to like, share, and subscribe, not as a routine act, but as a ripple of gratitude, so that others too may find their way back to their own light.